Well, who doesn't like to have secret knowledge? The idea of a private teaching. I mean, I think in a lot of ways that's the whole basis of the internet, isn't it? Everybody claiming to have secret knowledge. Well, one of the best is out with a new book. It's the book by Madame Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine. That's our topic coming up on Coast to Coast AM. This is Ian Punnett, and tonight I'm really glad to be getting into this with the one guy in the country who can talk about it with authority, and that's Michael Gomes. He has edited and annotated the work of Madame Blavatsky, H.P. Blavatsky. She was a woman who, in the 19th century, was synonymous with esoteric information. And as somebody who had traveled the world to learn our darkest secrets and then condense it all into one place, Madame Blavatsky set up the kind of teaching and writing schedule that almost killed her. But she survived at least long enough to see the publication of The Secret Doctrine in her lifetime, and it's something which has rarely gone out of print. Now it's back in a new softcover edition, and we will explore the secrets of the universe, the origins of humankind, and all of the things that you've wondered about tonight. Coming up next hour on Coast to Coast AM with Ian Punnett, The Secret Doctrine. We'll do open lines coming up next. It's a continuation of last night's open lines, which I had a great time doing on Coast to Coast. If you missed that, then what are the secret teachings in The Secret Doctrine? What is it that she discovered through all of these travels that she had to get down on paper and even die from in giving birth to it? The Secret Doctrine. We'll get into the actual history of humankind, the origins of the universe, and so much more next on Coast to Coast AM. This is Ian Punnett. What of the secret teachings that we'll be talking about? What was her view? What did she learn in her travels, and the knowledge that was revealed to her that would inform us as to the creation of the universe?
Okay, there's a really nice little quote from her first book, Isis and Bill, which in turn you can say The Secret Doctrine is 2 volumes just expanding on this very short idea. And in Isis she says that esoteric philosophers held that everything in nature is but a materialization of spirit. The eternal first cause is latent spirit, they said, and matter from the beginning. With the first idea, which emanated from the double-sexed and hitherto inactive deity, the first motion was communicated to the whole universe, and the electric thrill was instantaneously felt throughout the boundless space. Spirit begat force, and force matter, and thus the latent deity manifested itself as a creative energy. So, with her, God is the universal mind diffused through all things. So you have this spirit in turn, which manifests in our world as matter.
Okay, that sounds a lot like Christian Science.
You can see, because those ideas are coming up, and you find that a lot of the theosophists became interested in, the New Thought movements, a lot of the spiritual healing movements. She gave a philosophy or a reasoning behind people's beliefs. Really have popularized these ideas of previous continents like Lemuria and Atlantis. And she says, this would interest you, Ian, that a new sixth race is going to develop a sixth sense and will slowly begin to emerge here in America. So America is this home of a new consciousness that's going to be developing.
And that's the next race.
That's the next sixth race who will have this sixth sense. She uses this idea of a sixth sense long before it becomes popularized.
I want to follow that up, but let's push it back to the Lemurians and the Atlanteans. Where was Lemuria?
Now, also with these ideas, if you look at in the introduction, I also say, she says there are 7 different ways of interpreting these things. So it could be a literal interpretation that she's talking about. It could be allegorical. But Lemuria is supposed to be throughout the Pacific, from, India throughout the Pacific, out of which places like Easter Island are the mountaintops of this continent that sank beneath the seas. And then, of course, the following humanity then develops on Atlantis, which is in the Pacific. I mean, in the Atlantic Ocean.
In the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Although I have heard an argument that Easter Island, that there may be a relationship to Atlantis with Easter Island. I thought it was an interesting argument. But what was did Lemuria have a similar history or story arc as Atlantis?
With Lemuria, which is this third race, it initially starts out as being androgynous. She says, really, 18 million years ago, consciousness as we know it starts developing. Before that, people didn't have this manas, this mind faculty, and so mind starts developing, and humanity, which was once androgynous, becomes male and female. I know, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it wasn't. So we were all sort of androgynous beings, and then later on, almost like a kind of mitosis or something.
Yes, yes.
Our male part goes this way, and our female part goes another way. What? Did she believe that we could find out from whom we were reincarnated?
She doesn't talk so much. It's interesting. She doesn't talk about past lives a lot, mainly because for her, the past person, of course, is not really this person. You have the stream of consciousness, and then the personalities are all strung on like pearls on a string. So they really aren't, the same person that is today. So you really couldn't say that Mr. Smith is Mr. Jones today. She doesn't deal with that at all, interestingly.
What about other forms of consciousness, other life forms?
Certainly there are hierarchies, spiritual hierarchies that are more developed, that she refers to in the Secret Doctrine as the Elohim in Hebrew,
Right.
The angels before the throne. So you have all of these hierarchies, out of which man is just a part of this. It's an idea that had been prevalent before called the Great Chain of Being, where everybody is interconnected with this divine spiritual progress. And it's always this idea of progress. I don't think she believed, for instance, in metempsychosis, where you could be born a human and then, if you were bad, in your next life be born an animal, because that's not progress. That's going back into a lower form. So she certainly is not keen on that idea either.
She would have been what we call into limited reincarnation, human-to-human reincarnation.
Yeah. Even though you might be mentally worse, you would be physically still developing onward. There's this, all of creation is this, like a flower, blooming.
Right. And so what did Madame Blavatsky, what did she argue was the proper place of somebody, a prophet like Jesus? Did she have a thought on that?
Yes. In fact, she writes to her aunt, that what is the basis of all belief but to love God before all things and thy neighbor as thyself. And as you know, this particular quote comes from the story in the gospel where, the lawyer asked Jesus, who is my, where he asked him afterwards, well, who is my brother? Who is my neighbor? And, Jesus gives this wonderful answer. So she certainly regards him as, the spiritual teacher. And, of course, she also has high words for the Buddha.
Well, and what did she learn from Islam?
She doesn't go into Islam so much. It's mainly Christianity and Buddhism, Hinduism that are her main sources.
What about the Kabbalah? I would think she would have
Yes, Kabbalah is there, especially as one of the many theories. It's amazing that she is able to see these commonalities within all of these disparate systems, which is quite unusual. Imagine, though, for a woman who had not been to school, had no education.
Right.
How did she do this? This is, to me, the ponderance that I'm still faced with.
Where do you see the most evidence of plagiarism, people stealing from Madame Blavatsky all these years later and claiming, sort of new thought?
Well, I think it's like an echo. Certainly the people in the 19th century read her. Then the people who followed them read those people, and the people who followed them read those people. So you're getting an echo of a lot of the ideas that are floating around today. And if you want to get to the source, you really have to go to the Secret Doctrine, because it truly is a monument of modern esotericism. It is one of the great classics of just psychological literature.